The dark allure of serial killers has long captivated the public's imagination, blurring the line between morbid curiosity and a genuine quest for understanding. This fascination is fueled by the media's portrayal of these criminals, ranging from documentaries and films to podcasts and books. The stories of these killers are not just about the gruesome acts they committed, but also about the complex psychological profiles that drive such behavior. But first, subscribe to our channel for more content, and don't forget to share it with your friends and family. Dr. Scott Bond, a criminologist and author, explains that part of the interest in serial killers stems from trying to answer the question of why they commit such incomprehensible acts. The fascination also provides an adrenaline rush similar to watching fictional horror, with viewers feeling a sense of safety, as long as the killer remains on the screen or page. However, this fascination is a dangerous slope that could alter society's perception of present and future serial killers. Dr. Catherine Ramsland, a forensic psychology professor, emphasizes that serial killers are diverse and can only be generalized by the definition of having killed at least 2 victims on at least 2 occasions. This diversity in their backgrounds, motives, and methods contributes to the public's fascination, as each case presents a unique and often disturbing puzzle to unravel. While some media portrayals have been accused of glamorizing these killers, their crimes are a history to acknowledge and remember because of the real people and families they affected. It's crucial to approach this subject with sensitivity, recognizing the fine line between understanding and glorification. As we explore the stories of these notorious serial killers, we must never lose sight of the victims and the lasting impact these crimes have had on their families and communities. Dennis Rader, known as the BTK Killer, terrorized Wichita, Kansas for over 3 decades. His moniker, BTK, stands for Bind, Torture, Kill, which succinctly describes his method of operation. Rader's ability to lead a double life, appearing as a devoted family man and church leader while committing heinous crimes, adds to his notoriety. Rader committed his first murders in January 1974, strangling 4 members of the Otero family, including 2 children. Over the next 3 decades, he would go on to kill 6 more victims, bringing his total to 10. His crimes were marked by a chilling level of premeditation and control, often stalking his victims for weeks before striking. One of the most disturbing aspects of Rader's case was his desire for attention and recognition. In 1977, he wrote a letter to a local TV station, asking, "How many people do I have to kill before I get a name in the paper or some national attention?" This need for notoriety eventually led to his downfall. Rader's arrest in 2005 came after he sent a floppy disk to the police, which they traced back to him. Upon his capture, he confessed to his crimes, revealing not only the details of his murders, but also the sexual fantasies that drove them. His ability to blend into society as a respected community member while harboring such dark secrets shocked those who knew him. The BTK Killer case underscores the importance of understanding the psychological underpinnings of serial killers. Rader's crimes were driven by a combination of sadistic fantasies and a compulsion for control. His story serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous predators can hide in plain sight. Rader received a sentence of 10 consecutive life terms in prison in Kansas. His victims included the Otero family, Joseph, Julie, and 2 of their young children, as well as Catherine Bright, Shirley Vian, Nancy Fox, Maureen Hedge, Vicky Weggerl, and Dolores Davis. Ted Bundy stands as one of the most infamous serial killers in American history, known for his charm, intelligence, and brutality. Between 1974 and 1978, Bundy confessed to murdering 30 women across 7 states, though the true number of his victims is believed to be much higher. Bundy's modus operandi involved using his good looks and charisma to lure victims, often feigning injury or impersonating authority figures. His crimes were characterized by extreme violence and sexual assault, frequently bludgeoning his victims before strangling them. Bundy's actions went beyond murder, as he engaged in necrophilia with the corpses of his victims, revealing a deeply disturbed psyche. The Bundy case gained widespread media attention, partly due to the killer's articulate nature and his decision to represent himself in court. This publicity led to a series of books and films about his life, raising ethical questions about the portrayal of serial killers in media and the potential for glamorization. Bundy's psychological profile reveals a complex individual driven by a need for power and control. His ability to appear normal and even charming while harboring such violent tendencies has made him a subject of extensive study in criminology and psychology. The case highlights the importance of understanding the factors that contribute to the development of a serial killer. Despite his notoriety, it's crucial to remember the lives Bundy destroyed. Among his 26 identified victims were young women like Linda Ann Healy, Donna Gail Manson, and Kimberly Leach, whose futures were brutally cut short. Bundy's execution in 1989 marked the end of his reign of terror, but the impact of his crimes continues to resonate in American culture and criminal justice studies. Bundy was ultimately sentenced to death in 1979 for the murder of 2 college students and again for the rape and murder of a 12-year-old girl. His case continues to be studied and discussed, serving as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind a charming facade. John Wayne Gacy, infamously known as the Killer Clown, was responsible for the deaths of at least 33 boys and young men in Chicago during the 1970s. Gacy's case is particularly chilling due to his ability to lead a double life, much like Dennis Rader. By day, Gacy was a respected contractor and community member who often performed as a clown at children's parties and charitable events. This public persona stood in stark contrast to his nighttime activities, where he lured young men and boys to his home, subjected them to horrific acts of violence, and ultimately murdered them. Gacy's crimes were marked by extreme brutality. He would often use deception to gain his victims' trust, promising them work or money before overpowering them. Once captured, his victims endured rape and torture before being strangled. Gacy buried most of his victims in the crawl space beneath his house, a grim detail that shocked the nation when discovered in 1978. The psychological profile of Gacy reveals a complex and deeply disturbed individual. His ability to compartmentalize his life, maintaining a facade of normalcy while committing heinous acts, highlights the unsettling duality of his nature. Gacy's case underscores the importance of understanding the psychological factors that contribute to serial killing, as well as the need for vigilance in identifying potential offenders. Gacy was arrested in 1978 after the disappearance of 15-year-old Robert Piest led police to investigate him. The subsequent discovery of 29 bodies in or near Gacy's house, with 4 more found in the Des Plaines River, revealed the full extent of his crimes. Despite pleading not guilty by reason of insanity, Gacy was convicted of all 33 murders and sentenced to death. Executed in 1994, Gacy's legacy continues to haunt the public consciousness. His story serves as a reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath a seemingly ordinary exterior and the importance of remembering the victims who suffered at his hands. As with other notorious serial killers, Gacy's case provides valuable insights into criminal behavior and the impact of such crimes on society. Samuel Little is considered one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. He confessed to killing 93 victims across 19 states between 1970 and 2005. By 2019, law enforcement had verified 50 of his confessions. Most of his victims were marginalized, young black women. Little's crimes went undetected for decades, partly due to his transient lifestyle and the marginalized status of many of his victims. He often targeted women involved in prostitution or struggling with addiction, believing that their disappearances would not draw significant attention from law enforcement or the media. In 2012, Little was arrested at a homeless shelter in Louisville, Kentucky, on a narcotics charge and was extradited to California. There, police in Los Angeles were able to convict him for killing 3 women in the late 1980s after being linked through DNA evidence found at the crime scenes. The FBI reported that in all 3 cases, the women had been beaten and then strangled, their bodies dumped in an alley, a dumpster, and a garage. Little's case highlights the importance of advances in forensic technology and the need for better attention to cases involving marginalized victims. His ability to evade capture for so long underscores the challenges law enforcement faces in tracking serial killers who cross state lines and target vulnerable populations. While serving a life sentence at a state prison in Los Angeles County, Little began confessing to additional murders. He demonstrated an eerily detailed memory of his crimes, even creating portraits of many of his victims. These confessions have helped bring closure to many cold cases and provided answers to families who had been searching for their loved ones for decades. Little died in 2020 at the age of 80 while serving his life sentence. The FBI is still working to confirm some of Little's confessions and identify many of his alleged victims. His case serves as a grim reminder of the vulnerabilities in our society and the importance of giving equal attention to all missing persons cases, regardless of the victim's background or social status. Jeffrey Dahmer, also known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, stands as one of the most notorious serial killers in modern history. Between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer murdered 17 young men and boys, engaging in acts of necrophilia and cannibalism that shocked the nation. Dahmer's crimes were characterized by extreme depravity. He often dismembered his victims and preserved their body parts as trophies. His ability to evade capture for so long was due in part to his unassuming demeanor and the marginalized status of many of his victims. Dahmer frequently targeted young men from minority communities, luring them to his apartment with promises of money or companionship. The psychological profile of Dahmer reveals a deeply disturbed individual driven by uncontrollable urges and a desire for dominance. His crimes were not just about satisfying his sexual desires, but also about exerting power over his victims, both in life and death. Dahmer's case has been extensively studied to understand the mind of a serial killer and the factors that contribute to such behavior. Dahmer's arrest in 1991 came after one of his intended victims, Tracy Edwards, managed to escape and led police back to Dahmer's apartment. The subsequent discovery of photographic evidence of his crimes and human remains in his home shocked investigators and the public alike. Dahmer confessed to his crimes and was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms in prison. The Dahmer case has recently regained public attention with the release of the Netflix series Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer Story. While the series has been popular, it has also faced criticism from the families of Dahmer's victims, who argue that it glorifies the killer and reopens old wounds. Dahmer's story serves as a cautionary tale about the potential for evil within the human psyche and the importance of recognizing warning signs of such behavior. As with other notorious serial killers, Dahmer's case highlights the need for a balanced approach that acknowledges the suffering of victims while exploring the psychological aspects of the killer. David Berkowitz, also known as Son of Sam, brought fear and terror to New York City in 1976 and 1977. His killing spree led to one of the largest manhunts in NYC history and captivated the public's attention due to his cryptic letters to the media and police. Berkowitz claimed to be driven by demons and wrote in his diary that he set around 1,500 fires in New York City in the mid-1970s before escalating to murder. He killed a total of 6 victims and injured more, often targeting couples in parked cars. This pattern of attacking seemingly random victims in public spaces heightened the fear and paranoia in the city during his active period. One of the most notorious aspects of Berkowitz's crimes was his communication with the media. He wrote letters to newspapers, signing them as Son of Sam, a reference to a black Labrador retriever owned by his neighbor, Sam Carr. Berkowitz claimed that a demon lived inside the dog and commanded him to kill. These letters, filled with rambling, pseudo-religious content, fueled public fascination and media coverage of the case. The manhunt for Berkowitz was extensive, involving hundreds of police officers and detectives. He was finally arrested in 1977, just 11 days after his last murder, when a witness reported a suspicious person near the scene of the final shooting. Upon his arrest, Berkowitz quickly confessed to the killings, bringing an end to the reign of terror that had gripped New York City. Berkowitz's case had a significant impact on popular culture and the media landscape. His crimes and the subsequent manhunt inspired books, movies, and even legislation. The Son of Sam laws, enacted in several states, were designed to prevent criminals from profiting from their crimes through book deals or other media contracts. Currently serving a sentence of 365 years in a New York prison, Berkowitz has reportedly renounced his Son of Sam persona and become a born-again Christian. His case continues to fascinate criminologists and the public, serving as a stark reminder of the impact a single individual can have on an entire city. Richard Cottingham, known as the Torso Killer, left a trail of brutal murders in his wake in New York City and New Jersey in the late 1970s and early 1980s. His gruesome method of killing and mutilating his victims earned him his chilling moniker and a place among America's most notorious serial killers. For several months, women, mostly sex workers, were found in hotel rooms with their bodies horrifically mutilated. Cottingham was given the name Torso Killer because he often cut off his victims' heads and hands, making identification difficult. This level of brutality shocked even seasoned investigators and contributed to the fear that gripped the region during his active period. Cottingham's ability to lead a double life added to his notoriety. By day, he worked as a computer operator for a health insurance company and lived with his wife and 3 children in New Jersey. This facade of normalcy allowed him to evade suspicion for years, highlighting the unsettling reality that serial killers can often blend seamlessly into society. In 1980, Cottingham was arrested after a maid at a motel heard a woman screaming from one of the rooms. Police found him in the process of torturing and attempting to kill the woman. This arrest led to his conviction for several murders, though it would take decades for the full extent of his crimes to come to light. In 1984, Cottingham was found guilty of 5 murders and sentenced to over 200 years in prison. However, he has since confessed to many more killings. Some investigators believe his victim count could be between 80 to 100, making him one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. As recently as April 2021, Cottingham confessed to drowning 2 teenage girls in New Jersey in 1974, adding to his already extensive list of known victims. Now, 75 years old and serving his sentence in the New Jersey State Prison, Cottingham's case continues to evolve as he reveals more details about his crimes, bringing closure to cold cases, but also reopening wounds for the families of his victims. Bel Gunnis, known as Hell's Bell, stands out among American serial killers not only for her gender, but also for the time period in which she operated. Active in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Gunnis is believed to have killed at least 14 people, though some estimates put her victim count as high as 40. Born in Norway in 1859, Gunnis immigrated to the United States in 1881. She settled in Chicago, where she married Mads Sorensen in 1884. The couple's candy store mysteriously burned down, and they collected the insurance money. Sorensen died in 1900 under suspicious circumstances, leaving Gunnis with a significant life insurance payout. Gunnis later moved to a farm in La Porte, Indiana, where she continued her murderous activities. She lured wealthy men to her farm through personal ads, promising marriage and a prosperous future. Many of these men disappeared shortly after arriving, and their bodies were later found buried on her property. The discovery of multiple bodies on her farm in 1908 shocked the nation and revealed the true extent of her crimes. Among the remains were those of her 2 husbands, several of her children, and numerous suitors. Gunnis's ability to evade capture and her cunning methods of luring victims have made her one of the most notorious female serial killers in history. Gunnis's fate remains a mystery. Her farmhouse burned down in 1908, and a headless body was found in the ruins, believed to be hers. However, many believe she faked her death and escaped, leaving behind a legacy of fear and intrigue. The case of Bel Gunnis highlights the challenges of investigating serial killers, particularly in an era with limited forensic technology. Her story serves as a reminder of the potential for evil within the human psyche and the importance of vigilance in identifying and stopping those who prey on others. Dean Corll, infamously known as the Candy Man, was an American serial killer whose reign of terror in Houston, Texas, between 1970 and 1973, left a chilling legacy. Corll, an electrician and former candy store owner, earned his nickname due to his family's candy business, which he used to lure young boys. His crimes were particularly heinous, involving the abduction, rape, torture, and murder of at least 28 young boys and teenagers. Corll's method of operation was both calculated and brutal. He employed 2 teenage accomplices, David Owen Brooks and Elmer Wayne Henley, to help him lure victims to his home with promises of parties or rides. Once there, the victims were shackled, sexually assaulted, and eventually killed. The discovery of Corll's crimes came to light in 1973 when Henley, during a heated confrontation, shot and killed Corll. Henley then confessed to the police, leading them to the mass graves where Corll had buried his victims. The bodies were found in various locations, including a rented boat shed, a beach, and a wooded area, with some victims showing signs of mutilation and others buried with tape around their mouths or cords around their necks. The legacy of Dean Corll serves as a grim reminder of the potential for evil within seemingly ordinary individuals. His ability to hide his monstrous nature behind the facade of a friendly candy man underscores the importance of community vigilance and the need to protect vulnerable populations from predators. Gary Ridgway, known as the Green River Killer, is one of the most notorious serial killers in American history, responsible for the deaths of at least 49 women, though he confessed to killing over 80. Ridgway's killing spree primarily took place in the 1980s and 1992 in Washington state, where he targeted vulnerable women, many of whom were sex workers or runaways. His ability to evade capture for so long makes his case particularly notorious. Ridgway's method of operation involved picking up women in his truck, often posing as a potential client. He would then drive them to remote areas where he would strangle them, sometimes using ligatures, before disposing of their bodies in or near the Green River. This methodical approach allowed him to continue his killing spree for years, even as law enforcement intensified their efforts to catch him. The investigation into the Green River Killer was one of the largest and most expensive in U.S. history, involving multiple law enforcement agencies, and the use of emerging forensic technologies. Despite being a suspect early on, Ridgeway managed to pass a polygraph test in 1984, which delayed his capture. It wasn't until 2001, when DNA evidence linked him to several victims, that Ridgeway was finally arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder. In 2003, Ridgeway entered a plea deal, confessing to 48 murders to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to 48 life sentences without the possibility of parole. His confessions provided closure to many families, as he detailed how he selected and killed his victims. Ridgeway's case underscores the importance of advancements in forensic science, as DNA evidence played a crucial role in his capture and conviction. Ridgeway's legacy is a stark reminder of the dangers faced by marginalized individuals, particularly women involved in sex work. His ability to operate undetected for so long highlights the vulnerabilities within society and the need for better protection and support for at-risk populations. The Green River Killer case also serves as a testament to the persistence and dedication of law enforcement in bringing justice to the victims and their families, even after decades of uncertainty. The examination of 10 of the most notorious serial killers in U.S. history reveals a chilling tapestry of human depravity and the complexities of criminal behavior. Each of these individuals left a profound impact on society, not only through their heinous acts, but also through the subsequent investigations and media portrayals that followed. In conclusion, the stories of these 10 notorious serial killers serve as a stark reminder of the darkness that can exist within the human psyche. While their crimes are deeply disturbing, they also provide valuable insights into criminal behavior and the factors that contribute to such acts. Understanding the psychological profiles of these killers is crucial for developing better profiling techniques and preventative measures, but it is equally important to remember the victims and the impact of these crimes on their families and communities.